Hey, shalom, family, shalom. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Heavy is the Crown podcast. This is your brother Mahar, just checking in with you. We got an exciting little lesson today, I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna try and be as short as possible. You know how that works when you deal with the scriptures. Wherever the Spirit leads you, that's where the Spirit leads you. Something can go from 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 2 hours. But I'm gonna try and keep it as short as possible. But I just want to do a quick sort of a rebuke, right? A rebuke video against one of these Christians, and hopefully you can find it edifying. But first off, I want to give all praise to the Most High God in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, whose name is Yahawashi Hamashiach in the Hebrew. I'm not talking about this modern Hebrew that's damn near Yiddish, but that's another video. But just want to go in on this brother by the name of Corey, who runs the Smart Christian channel, and we're going to try and find out if he really is a smart Christian. Right off the bat, just calling himself a Christian is, as worldly, right? The Christian or Christianity was started after Christ died. Right, and they call themselves followers of Christ, which we know, being in this truth, that's nonsense, right? You can't be followers of Christ. Christ wasn't a follower of Christ. Christ wasn't a Christian, right? Christ was a follower of the Most High God. He got all of his being from the Most High God. Right, but let's get into this. Let's see what this gentleman is talking about. All right, let's see what we got here.
Sin, transgression, and iniquity. What's the difference? It's a good question.
What is the difference? What truly is the difference? Now, we're not going to go through this entire video. It's pretty maddening going through the video. I already went through it. It's, if you want to go through it, that's cool. Have fun. But, I just want to touch on this topic. What is sin, iniquity, and transgression? What's the difference between them? All right, let's go into it.
What is the difference between sin, transgression, and iniquity? We'll ask this question a lot, and so we need to go ahead and delve into this question. Now, this particular question comes from Patty Hines, who asked this particular question. What's the difference of it? And so for anyone else who also has a question to ask him, because I can't get to all of them, but as many as I can, I'll get to them. I'll either send you back a response by email, or I will make a video, and the video will show up either on Patreon. By the way, the link is in the description, and it's also on. Please go over there and join Patreon. To this question, what is the difference between sin, iniquity, and transgression? Well, truth be told, they can actually be kind of used interchangeably. So let's put it this way. All iniquity is sin. All transgression is sin. However, all sin is not iniquity. All sin is not transgression. That sounds a little bit weird, because sometimes they do say the same thing. They can be kind of interchangeable. They're saying basically the same idea. Evil and lawlessness, which God defines. That's kind of what all the terms carry, all the meanings carry. Think about it like.
Did you catch all that? I could barely catch all of that because, he was talking around in circles. And this is what Christians usually do. They talk around in circles. They don't know their ass from their elbow. Excuse my French. But this is why the Lord gave us the scriptures, right? So that we can figure out what is iniquity, what is sin, and what is transgression. All right, so let's start off. Let's go to the scriptures. All right, let's start off. We're going to start off in James 1 and verse 8. Right? It says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Right? This man right here, he's unstable. He doesn't know what's the difference between the three. Even though we know that sin, transgression, and iniquity are all the same thing. Right? Just because they're using different words doesn't mean that it's not the same thing. And I'm going to try and prove that to you. So through the scripture, we can understand what it is that the Lord is requiring of us, right? Let's keep going through his video and let's see what else he has to say.
Sin really it's kind of a broad way of putting it. It's just what we say, missing the mark. Anyone, everyone, all the people, anyone that you've ever known that's ever taken a breath has sinned. Or I should put it this way, has missed the mark. Those that are upright and can think, we have missed the mark. We are doing what God doesn't want us to do. The opposite, going in a different direction. And because of that, obviously there are going to be different consequences. The consequences can vary.
Ooh. He said something crazy there. Right, he said something crazy. He said that, there can be different consequences to sin. Right? I agree to a certain extent, but then I also disagree in what in a lot of stuff that he's saying. Right? First, he said that, when everybody falls short of the mark. Right? That's not so. Okay. When you go into history, you can see that not everybody was given the commandments of the Lord. All right, let's check that out. Let's go to the classic. Let's go to Psalms, all right, 147, and we'll go to verse 19. It said, he showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation. Right? And as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord. So this alone, right off the bat, just disagrees with what he just said, right? Not everybody can sin, if that makes sense. Right? Because his laws, statutes, and commandments were only given to Israel, right? The sons of Jacob, the Israelites. Okay, they weren't given to Christians. They weren't given to agnostics. They weren't given to Edomites. Right? We can see throughout, history, in the different captivities that Jacob has gone through. Right, the Assyrian captivity, they did whatever they wanted to do. Right? The Babylonian captivity, they did exactly what they wanted to do. The Persian and Mede captivity, they did exactly what they wanted to do, and so on and so forth. And into this current captivity, nobody keeps the commandments. Right? Even though the Lord wants us to keep the commandments. I mean, if we look at him, right off the top, right? And like I said, I'm gonna try and keep this short, but if we look at him, I can see just right off the bat, 2 commandments that he's not keeping. Right, one, let's go to it. He has a bald ass head, excuse my French, right? And he doesn't keep a beard on his face. And I'm sure under that silly sweatshirt, he probably has like 10 crosses hanging from his neck. But is that what the scriptures say? Let's go back to the scriptures and let's see what the scriptures say. All right, let's go to Leviticus 19 first. And all I'm trying to do right now is doing this Leviticus 19:17, right? It said, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. I don't hate this brother, right? But he's going in a wrong path, just like the majority of our people are going in the wrong direction, right? But it says that thou shalt, that you will, in any wise, right? By any means, rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. This man is in sin. How can we therefore trust what he's saying if he himself doesn't know the things that he's supposed to be doing? All right. Let's go down. Let's go to the actual commandment. Leviticus 19:27. It says, ye shall not round the corners of your head. His head is pretty round. Right? Neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy beard. He has no beard. Right? That's a problem. And going back to what he was saying, when he was talking about the different consequences for sin, this is the part that I agree with. Right? I agree that and let's go real quick. I want to go to 1 John 5 right here, verse 17. It says, all unrighteousness is sin, and there is a sin not unto death. All right. Him having a bald head and no beard is not a sin unto death. Right? Him not following the dietary law is not a sin unto death. Him not honoring his mother and father, which I don't know if he does this. None of my business. This is between him and the Lord. It is my business to a certain extent, but I'm not behind the scenes with him. Like, I don't go home with him I'm not his father. I'm not his mother. None of that. So I don't know what this man does behind closed doors. Right? Lying. You don't get put to death for lying. How about stealing? You could get put to death. But in the scriptures, you're supposed to recompense the person you're stealing from. You're supposed to give them a lot more back, including what you stole from them. But you know what is a sin unto death? Homosexuality, right? Adultery, right? Breaking the Sabbath, killing your brother. These are all sins unto death. So to a certain degree, I do agree with him that there are different consequences. But we know, as our beloved brother Paul says, sin is just going to lead to death. Right? Now, depending on the type of death, that's up to the Lord. He can just put you in a lowly place. Right? Thinking you crazy, thinking you're a Christian or something. You're sitting in the corner with a cross in your hand, tapping on your head with the cross, something crazy. But he can do that. Right? And we have no way of stopping any of that. That's none of our business. This is the Lord's business. Right? He's the one that provides the judgment unto us. But I digress. Let's go back to what he's saying, and let's see if he can give us some other stuff.
Depending upon the intentionality, and that's where we get into the difference between iniquity and transgression. So what is iniquity? Iniquity would kind of describe what's happening internal. It is where the outward action comes from. So sin would be on the outside, the outward action, whereas it starts in the heart internally. Iniquity is the motivation. So sin is the action, iniquity is the attitude. Think about it like that. Or sin has to do with what you do. Iniquity has to do with more of the heart. Again, there can be a little bit of a kind of a funging between the two, but certain desires can be, such as lust, can be iniquity, but the actual manifestation of it can be either fornication or adultery.
Yikes. There you go. More confusion. More confusion. Let's go to the scriptures. Let's see what the scripture is talking about. Okay. He says that lust can be iniquity. Now, is lust iniquity or is lust sin? To understand that, we got to figure out what exactly is being said. How about we go to the Lord himself? We go to Matthew 5:28. Matter of fact, let's start at 27. Okay, it says, ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. Right? What is adultery? We got to find out what adultery is. Okay, let's find out what adultery is. So what is adultery? Right, let's go to the scriptures. Let's go to Leviticus 20, and we'll start at verse 10. It says, and the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. So, if Christ says that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. So in order to understand this, we need to figure out what's happening in this precept, right? Whosoever looketh on a woman. So you're telling me that you can, if you just look at a woman, that you're committing sin and you must be put to death? That's not what's being said here. Let's look at it in a different translation. Let's try to figure out what it is that's happening here. Let's go to Bible Hub real quick, and let's go to I think the GNT has a really great breakdown of this. It says, but now I tell you, anyone who looks at a woman and wants to possess her is guilty of committing adultery. Right? So we already know that adultery is when a man lays with a married woman. Right? And vice versa. If a married woman lays with a married man, this is adultery. But what's being talked about by Christ is that this man is looking to possess this woman. He wants to do exactly that. He wants to lay with a married woman. So it's not about whether he's looking at her, right? How else are we supposed to, pick up a significant other or a spouse or a wife? We have to look at them, right? How did Isaac and Rebecca get together, right? How did Abraham and Sarah get together? They had to look at them. So the sin or the adultery comes in at that possession section, right? Because he wants this woman, but he knows that she has a husband. He's already committed adultery in his heart or in his mind, right? That is a sin punishable by death. So when when this gentleman says stuff like lust can be iniquity, no, it is iniquity. It is sin, right? And now let's see what happens. Let's go to real quick. Let's go to Romans. All right, we'll stay in here. We'll go to Romans. We'll go to 6 and verse 23. It says, for the wages of sin is death. Right? Iniquity is sin. Sin is iniquity. Transgression is what? Let's see what transgression is. Let's go to another chapter. Let's go to the classic. Let's go to 1 John 3. And let's find out. 1 John 3 and 4. It said, whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law. For sin is the transgression of the law. All right. So this gentleman is wrong in his ideology. All right, let's go to Romans 7, and we'll go to verse 7. It says, what shall we say then? Is the law sin? God forbid. Nay, I had not known sin but by the law. For I had not known lust, except the law had said, thou shalt not covet. Right? So that lust, it falls under two different levels of iniquity or of sin. Right? Because you can lust after something. It doesn't have to be a female, or it doesn't have to be someone of the other sex. Let's see what lust is. Lust is anything that you desire. All right, let's go to the blue letter. Let's find out. All right, it's a desire. It's a craving. It's a longing. Right? You can desire so many things. People desire money all the time. Right? People crave food. Right? You see these people around that are 7, 8, 9, 1,000 pounds. They're gluttonous at that point. They're beyond gluttony at that point. But it's because they desired that food. They craved that food. They longed for that food. Right? They had that desire for that food. And because of that desire, now they're 600, 700 pounds. Right? It's any kind of desire, right? People desire things at their work. It's when that desire is overtaking you as a person. Right? Let's go to Exodus. We'll go to Exodus 34. And we'll go to verse 7. Matter of fact, we'll start at verse 6. It says, and the Lord passed by before him and proclaimed, the Lord God, merciful and gracious, long-suffering and abundant in goodness and truth, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity. How can the Lord forgive iniquity if iniquity isn't sin? Right? Forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin. It's all talking about the same thing. You are sinning against the Lord. And that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children unto the third and to the fourth generation. Right? He's visiting the sin and transgression and iniquity on the children. All right. So let's go back to the video and let's see what else he has to say.
Things like that. So think about it like that. The transgression kind of is a willful violation of the transgression. Kind of what it really is. Kind of really the two really in many cases kind of combined. So transgression would be like a presumptuous sin, an intentional sin. You really mean to do this. There's an intention of disobeying. There is a desire to do these things. And so sin, which can be unintentional, an unintentional transgression, involves deliberate crossing of the lines. And so let's go ahead and pull up a couple passages and look at this. And you can
That is crazy. He's literally trying to separate sin, iniquity, and transgression. Right. And again, when we go to the scriptures put them all in the same plot. Right? It's on the same tombstone. Iniquity, transgression, and sin. It's all the same. Right? Let's go back to 1 John 3 again. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law. Why? Because for sin is the transgression of the law. You are transgressing the law. You are sinning against the Lord. You are committing iniquity. All right. Let's keep going. Let's go to Lamentations. How about we go to Lamentations? Let's go to Lamentations 4. Oh, excuse me. Let's go to Lamentations 4 and we'll jump to verse 6. Let's see this. It says, for the punishment of the iniquity, right? Punishment of the iniquity of the daughter of my people is greater than the punishment of the sin of Sodom, that was overthrown as in a moment, and no hand stayed on her. Iniquity is sin. Sin is iniquity. The Lord is not going to visit iniquity on the children of Israel if it wasn't bad, right? All three are interchangeable: iniquity, sin, and transgression. Let's see another one. Let's go to Jeremiah. Let's go to Jeremiah 18. All right, we'll go to Jeremiah 18. And we'll go to verse 23. It says, yet, Lord, thou knowest all their counsel against me to slay me. Forgive not their iniquity, neither blot out their sin from thy sight. But let them be overthrown before thee. Deal thus with them in the time of thine anger. Right? Forgiving the iniquity. How can you forgive iniquity if iniquity is not sin? Right? These are all questions that need to be asked. And, you know, this dude really needs to answer. Let's go to another one. Let's go to another witness. Let's go to Ezekiel. All right, we'll go to Ezekiel 3. And let's go to verse 20. It says again, as a matter of fact, let's start at 19. Yet if thou warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity. If iniquity is not sin, then why is he dying? Right? Iniquity is sin. You can die in both. It's the same thing. But thou hast delivered thy soul. Again, when a righteous man doth turn from his righteousness and commit iniquity. It didn't say commit sin. It said commit iniquity. They're the same thing, ladies and gentlemen. Right? And I lay a stumbling block before him. He shall die. All right, that goes back to that Romans 6:23. For the wages of sin is death. And this is showing that this person is committing iniquity and he shall die. It's all the same thing, ladies and gentlemen. All the same thing. Right? I don't think I want to go back to this video. You know, I mean, let's go to another one, just, you know, to be on the safe side. Let's go to Job. Job is always a classic. It's always a great read. All right, let's go to Job 13 and we'll go to verse 23. It says, how many are mine iniquities and sins? Make me to know my transgression and my sin. Right? Notice he didn't say, how many are mine transgressions and iniquities? No, they're all the same. Right? Remember, you know, a lot of the translating was done by men, right? And men have ulterior motives sometimes, you know? Let's see if we can find one more. See if we can go to... how about we go to Isaiah, another one of my favorites. Let's go to Isaiah 59 and we'll go to verse 20. Okay, it says, and the Redeemer shall come to Zion, to the children of Israel, and unto them that turn from transgression in Jacob, saith the Lord. If you turn from your iniquity, if you turn from your sin, if you turn from your transgression, right? I'm going to show you the problem with this and why so many people follow people like this, right? Because they don't have this in their heart. It says, let's start at verse 3, Romans 3:3. It says, for what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of God without effect? God forbid. It says, yea, let God be true, but every man a liar, as it is, every man a liar, right? What did the Lord say, right? What did the Lord say about iniquity? What did the Lord say about transgression? What did the Lord say about sin? The Lord said something completely different than this man right here. Every man is a liar. Don't even trust me, right? You pick this book up and you read it for yourself, right? But, you know, here's another one. Here's another one. All right, let's go to Isaiah. We'll go to 8. And let's go to verse 20. It says, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. This gentleman has no light. Most Christians don't have light, right? Why? Because they believe that men are not liars, right? They don't believe that God is true, right? They have it backwards. Right? Let's go to another one, because this is what we have to do as a nation, as a people, right? Right here, Matthew 3:8. It says, bring forth therefore fruits, meet for repentance. If this man wanted to repent, you know what he would do? He would stop shaving his head, right? He would put a beard on his face. Right? I'd love to continue through the video because he says a lot of crazy stuff. You know, it's just sad. It's sad, right? It's sad the stuff that our people go through, right? And yet we have to deal with people like this who will aim them in the wrong direction, who will go against what the Lord has said, right? It's sad. Let's go real quick. Let's go to, and this might be saying too much, but maybe it's not, right? Let's go to Matthew 16:6. It says, Then Yahushua said unto them, Take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Right? This guy doesn't even qualify as a Pharisee or Sadducee. Why? Because he doesn't even try to keep the law. He doesn't even try. So he can't even be on the same level as the Pharisees and Sadducees. All right, let's go to Matthew 23. Let's go to verse 2. It says, saying, the scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. Why do they sit in Moses' seat? Because at that time, the Pharisees and Sadducees were giving the laws, right? But they were also giving other laws as well, like washing your hands or, some other crazy laws, right? You can't look in the corner for too long. I don't know. I don't know. But it's the hypocrisy of them, right? Let's keep reading. It says, all therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do, right? So if they tell you that you're supposed to keep the Sabbath, you keep the Sabbath, right? But do not ye after their works, for they say and do not. They'll tell you to keep the Sabbath, but they won't keep it themselves. That's the hypocrisy of this, right? This guy doesn't even tell you that you should have that the males should have a beard on their face, and they shouldn't make bald their heads or round the corners of their heads. He won't tell you that. He probably doesn't even know it, or maybe he does know it and he just don't care, right? Because he thinks he's not under the law. But is that what Christ said? Right? Christ was keeping the law. Christ was definitely keeping the law. And I'll show you another one. Let's go to Matthew 5. All right, let's go to verse 17. It says, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. And all has not been fulfilled. Right? It says, whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so. This man, bald head, no beard, right? And I'm sure he teaches everybody the same thing. He shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. Being the least in the kingdom of heaven is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Right? When it talks about the kingdom of heaven, it's talking about the rulership that's coming in the future. Right? The rulership that's going to who? That's going to the children of Israel under Christ. And Christ is under the Most High God. Right? The least, you're going to be at the very bottom. Right? What do they say? The first one is last and the last is first. Paraphrasing, of course, right? But this is what's going to happen if you break one of these least commandments, right? And teach men so. So this gentleman here, I got a few more things to say, but I think maybe I'll do that on another video. But I think that is all for now. Like I said, I try to keep it as short as possible, but I want to give all praise to the Most High in the name of his only begotten Son. Hope everybody found this a little edifying, right? Try to make it as short as possible. Shalom. All praises.